Just gonna have a whinge and a moan about the old Tory party and their betrayal
We need
of
to. We
British
need to.
people. Long overdue, isn't it? They've taken liberties.
But yeah. So listen. So yeah, go on. What? So what you saying first of all, David? Anyway.
Well, first topic I think to start off with would be immigration. It was one of the major topics to do with Brexit, wasn't it? That never happened either. But let's start with immigration and how they betrayed us with that. I mean, we'll get to the boat people, but they've just got an open door policy, haven't they? I mean, if you look at Hong Kong, they said they would take 1 million Hong Kongers in. There was supposed to be, I don't know, was it 10 or 15,000 Afghans, and it went up to like 90,000 or something like that, if not more.
Yeah.
And then Ukraine, open door policy for Ukrainians as well.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. I mean,
they've got no intentions. They've got no intentions of securing the borders, and they've got to go.
No. And do you know what? I've always been under the impression, that old saying, Labour. Labour would be worse. Labour would be worse, and in some aspects, yeah. But at the same time, I'm thinking now that they're both the same. We've had
at the moment. I can't tell the difference, Nick.
Yeah, they've had 12 and a half years in power. Not much has been sorted out. If anything, it's got worse. And you've just mentioned, like you say, 500,000 Hong Kong residents. However many have come over from Ukraine, we're offering and.
A million Hong Kongers, they said. 1 million, mate.
Oh, sorry, 1 million. 1 million.
Yeah, and a half. Yeah, 1 million. Yeah.
So again, it goes down to it's not who, it's about how many. Because if we had too many, green aliens descending on our shores in this country, we would need to restrict that. So it's immigration overall. Now, don't get me wrong. We must realise that immigration is good, beneficial, always has been, always will be.
When it's proportionate, when it's necessary, when it can be justified, yeah, of course.
Definitely. But like you say, that's what I was about to say. So when it's controlled and managed, it works wonders. But when there's uncontrolled mass immigration, and as you said, you point out the near 1 million that we're going to offer to Hong Kong residents and those from Ukraine, those from Afghanistan, and whether you can argue that some have been interpreters during the war or whatever else, it just comes to a point where we're offering too many places for too many people over here when our own infrastructure and everything isn't perfect. So we need to really focus on that, and that's just immigration as a whole, let alone illegal immigration, which we can get onto further with.
Yeah, well, actually, I watched a video earlier. I'd have to dig it out. I might post it if I can find it again. I just finished work and it just popped up on my phone. I've lost it, but I don't know who it was, but it was some sort of panel, and I'm assuming it was an MP or whatnot who was talking about these illegal economic migrants come over from Albania. And he was saying about Albania's a nice place, and Brits go there on holiday and blah 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 blah. So this guy was like, I've looked up and checked. You can get a flight from Albania to the UK for £28. So why are these people paying thousands of pounds to people smugglers to come over via dinghy into the country through the back door when they can pay £28 and if they're legitimate they can apply for seek asylum when they get here, but obviously they can't because they're not fleeing anything, are they? So that's why they throw the documents over, etc. So we're just having our pants pulled down over this, aren't we? Really, with these lot.
It's we're a laughing stock. Not me and you personally, and the people listening, and the people who want changing. We're not personally a laughing stock, but the people in charge are a laughing stock, and we have been, unfortunately, for a very long time. £28. I mean, fuck me, that's not even. I can't even get to work for 4 days on a train on that. And it's just, and there's no war.
With my mates, I wouldn't even get around in.
Yeah, well, you got to stop ordering them doubles. But no, listen, we are a laughing stock. We have been for a long time. And like I said, there's no war in Albania, David. I know that, you know that, and everyone listening knows that. There's no war in France either, where they're claiming to you know, to where they're coming from and claiming that they need to flee. So it's a whole big joke that needs addressing and addressing quick time, because it's too much now. It's it's been too much for a long time, but yeah, it's a proper piss take.
Did you see the video yesterday? I think it was yesterday. It might have been the day before with Active Patriot. He posted a video with some illegal economic migrants videoing themselves in a hotel eating. So it looked like a massive like, banquet, massive hotel table sitting there, top 5-star environment, and they're sitting down, they're eating food and whatnot, living the life of Riley.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's estimated we've got 6,500, 7,000 ex-veterans sleeping rough on our streets. Not to mention, the millions of Brits, for wherever their background, waiting to be housed, and these lot come over on rubber dinghies and they put up in 4-star hotels and eating luxury foods and living a life of Riley, and they ain't got to worry about the cost of living crisis. They ain't got to worry about their bills because we're paying for it for them.
Yep, and it great. Now you mentioned Active Patriot. Obviously, we're friends of his, and he follows us on Twitter. I see the picture where he shared. I think, if I'm right in thinking, it was a picture in two halves where it showed you those eating five-star courses meals in a nice warm hotel, and then the other picture, the other half of the picture shows you British homeless people on the streets. So yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting on the highest level, and and they're still not happy. We've spoke about it before, David, and it's well known that they've done rooftop riots, and they was on GB News in Datchet just the other week complaining about the food. So not only are they in 5-star hotels and they're getting their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner provided for, the gas and electric alone. Jesus Christ, I want to be a refugee. I want to come from and do what they're doing. Because
I think that's the best way. That's the best way moving forward, Nick. I think we should jump on a flight to France, come over on a dinghy, and all our problems are solved. We get put up for free, we get watered, we get fed, we get an allowance, and we ain't got to worry about anything, have we?
No, and it's sickening, and they know that, because as soon as they come onto our shores, they get on their £1,000 iPhone and they call back to their brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, and whatever else, and say, "Look, this is how easy it is. Come through, come on." Yeah. They'll help you at sea. There be a glorified taxi service. They'll usher you back to safe shores on Britain. You'll be placed in army barracks, but then they burnt it down. So now we place them in hotels. They're still not happy because of the food. Look at the interviews they've done with GB News and other mainstream media outlets and everything else. They're still not happy. And do you know why? Because they know they're going to carry on.
It's an absolute joke, Nick. I mean, I watched now with... have you seen the one with Nigel Farage? He posted about the demographics. So the Office of National Statistics have posted, the last census that taken place to show that white Brits were a minority in all of our major cities, practically in the UK, and it was Sajid Javid tweeted him saying, "So what?"
So what? Yeah, he's known for coming up with that little catchphrases and so what. I think he done it to our mate David Atherton, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did about the vaccines and that. Yeah.
But you talk about white British or white English being a minority all of a sudden. I must remind you, David, I'm from Slough, where since the year 2010 census.
Say no more.
I've been white English minority in Slough, so I've had to, You talk about Birmingham and Leicester and Luton and other places that are going to. I'm from Slough. I know it first and foremost, and it's crazy, is it? That's not to say I don't like any person of a different color or skin or any nationality. Obviously, that's not about.
It's not about that, and that's just something.
Yeah, it's just stating fact that I'm white English in a country that's predominantly white English for thousands of years. Within 50 years or 30 years, I'm now the minority. Fact.
Yeah. And the thing is, when Nigel Farage, for example, when he was talking about the statistics that were released by the Office of National Statistics showing that white Brits are a minority in these cities, all hell broke loose from the left. The usual suspects calling everyone racist and whatnot. And my question, Nick, was, would these dirty lefty scumbags, choosing my words very carefully there, would they be calling, the likes of Jamaicans, for example? Imagine, Jamaica saw an influx of migrants from elsewhere. Would they be calling, Jamaicans racist if they were concerned that they were starting to become minorities in their own cities, or Nigerians, or Japanese, or Chinese, or for anybody for that matter?
They wouldn't.
It wouldn't happen, and that's why I said, it's nothing more than Anglophobia, and that's what I think people need to wake up and actually smell the coffee and smell the Anglophobia and see what's going on. You can, it seems that when it comes to racism, it seems that you get a free pass if it's towards us. And that's how it feels. That's how it comes across. I mean, what's your opinion on that, Nick? Do you think that do we think I'm going over the top, or can you see that?
No, you're not going over the top. You're bang on the money. Let me tell you why you're bang on the money. Because a well-known MP called Diane Abbott. Now she's a maths genius. If you haven't heard of her, she's a maths genius.
Mathematical enthusiast.
She said that racism can only work one way, because white people hold the power. You see, so you're not going over the top. You're not misconstruing anything. It's it's racism can only work one way, and we've seen it blatantly. We're in this, that, and the other, in the media, the police force, or whatever you want to talk about, two-tier policing. But yeah, so you're not going over the top, because Diane Abbott, she's openly said, racism can only work one way because white people hold the power. That's bollocks. White privilege is bollocks. White power is bollocks. It's all load of bollocks, and anyone with half a brain cell knows it.
Yeah, and and if you look at we saw that with the Black Lives Matter marches, for example, and could you imagine if white people were walking down the road shouting white power and and vandalizing, I don't know, some sort of monuments, relating to black people, whatever, it would be a never-ending story. That people would be arrested straight away. We saw with Sasha Johnson, who's now got a huge hole in her head. She was, out saying she got banned from Twitter, didn't she? Because she said, white people will not be our equals; they'll be our slave.
I remember that.
And this sort of rhetoric goes on, and it just gets overlooked. I mean, if you said that, you wouldn't just get banned from Twitter, Nick. The police would be knocking on your door. They would be around to arrest you. You'd be banging trouble.
David, if I said that, being banned off Twitter, being arrested
would be the last thing you need to worry about.
Being arrested would be my least of my worries. So I assure you of that, mate.
Yeah.
I'd be fearing for my life, right?
Yeah.
But as you say, other people from other backgrounds can say that. And we know that they can say it and get away with it because they've said it and got away with it.
Yeah. And there's no denying that. It's literally what happens. I just for my in my own head, I just can't get my head around the way the country is, over the last couple of decades, just turned into this monstrous Marxist. It's literally that Twitter account, clown world. It's literally feel like you're living in a clown world. It's an absolute joke.
It's a joke and not a funny one. It's a joke, not a funny one. As you said, the last 2 decades or so is just fucking hell. Where can I start? How can I describe it? Is it too late? Is it too late, mate, to say?
I believe it. I believe in every aspect it's too late. I believe our country, unless if people are going to wake up the next election and we're going to see some dramatic changes, and we're lucky enough to follow Italy down their path. I mean, look what's happened in Italy. I think we're going to follow the path of France. I think the people in this country are too subdued. I believe there's there's a lot of low IQ people in this country. The dumbing down of Brits is unreal, and as you're aware yourself. Why British boys was only a few years ago were the lowest performing students in the UK because they've been left behind. And I believe because of that, I think personally, I just think we're done for, unless some dramatic change is going to happen within the next election. We're stuffed. We're absolutely stuffed.
But this is why we need to try and fight and do whatever we can. I understand and obviously agree with you, in somewhat in what you're saying, but we need to still hold our ground. You know what we're known for? We're known for being pushed into a corner as English and British people, and the old way. We're known for being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until we have no other option to come out and fight for what we need to fight for. Unfortunately, like you said, there's still so many people that are asleep or got their head in their sand, or just they're just not awake to what's happening. But slowly but surely, we need to hope that they do. And you said about there's so many people with low IQ in this with what's going on, and there is there's a lot of people actually, funny enough, that have got so many degrees and they can tell you how many inches and miles it is from here to Mercury and back, but they couldn't tell you common sense. They couldn't tell you what a woman is, or they couldn't tell you
well, this is it.
basic
This is
stuff.
it.
So,
This is it, bro. We got you got the likes of Eddie Izzard and and the rest of them. But we've got major political leaders. Mostly on the left, that couldn't tell you what a woman is.
I know. Could
Has
you?
happened to this country? Could you imagine? Other countries must be looking at us, and they must be looking at our countries, and they must be thinking, "What the fuck is going on with that lot?"
David, I would like
Don't drink the tap water.
Yeah, well, I would have liked to have considered ourselves as a nation, as a people, as quite clever people, educational. We led the way in democracy, or democracy and this, that, and the other. We've been quite influential in progression and this, that, and the other, and inventions and this, that, and the other. And now we've come to a point where so many can't tell you what a woman is. I think we've gone back we've gone back so far now. Obviously, we need to nip. Do you know why? Do you know why this has escalated? Because the media, the government, and politicians and other people have allowed it to escalate to that far. Years ago, you might have been sectioned to believe that you were a parrot and not human, or you're born in a different body and all this other nonsense.
Yeah, it's mental. Again, I'll choose my words carefully. Well, I've been banned for this before, but I consider it to be a mental illness. I mean, if your brain's saying another thing, obviously that's if you're hallucinating and you believe, or if you're being paranoid, or any other kind of psychological mental illness, obviously you'd need medical attention, wouldn't you?
Definitely.
But
we grew up being told, jokingly around, but if you see hairs on the palm of your hand or you're talking to yourself, you're a bit mad. Now I'm saying, if you think you're born in the wrong body, or if you think you're a different species, then I think you're mad. So yeah, no, you're right. Let's nip it in the bud and tell it how it is.
And the crazy thing is, obviously, we're right now. Obviously, we're talking about the Tories betraying us and stuff like that, and this is all going on. But you're right. But this is all going on under the noses of the Tories, under the noses of the Conservative Party. And as I was saying, about the low IQ thing, and I don't want to sound flippant, but that's the case. People are so thick in this country; they are dumb. They are absolutely dumb. As you pointed out earlier, 12 and a half years they've had to deal with uncontrolled immigration. And for 12 and a half years, we keep hearing talking tough on immigration. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I tell you what, I'd love to meet these people that vote for the Tory party, who support them, who were members, and keep listening to this crap, because I'd like to get loans off them and say, I'll tell you what, let me 10 grand and I'll pay you back in 4 years with interest. And then when the 4 years are up, I'll tell them again, I'm going to pay you back with interest. Another 4 years go by. Do you see what comes? It's mad. I don't understand how Tory voters or Tory members, think that they're conservatives. What the fuck are they conserving? What are they conserving?
Yeah, you're right.
Sajid Javid, so what? He says.
You could also sell them snake oil, but I think in some aspects it's like the people that vote Labour. They vote Labour because their father and granny and great granny and great 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 granny did. You could ask them, who's the candidate you vote for? They, I don't know. They're Labour. My granny voted Labour. So I think in some aspects that's the same with the Conservative Party. But like you say, come on, how the Labour were in power 13 years, it got worse. Conservative been in 12 and a half years so far. It's been worse.
Just closed.
So come on.
Yeah, they didn't make any changes whatsoever, did they? They just literally, took over from war criminal Tony Blair, and things just plateaued. It never got any better, did it? It just
No, no. Do you know what my man always said to me when I was growing up and getting involved in politics? From an early age, he said, all they do, Nick, is they ran the Westminster pub and they go, right, I've had 5 years now, we fucked up, now it's your turn. You might have 5 or 10 years, but then you give it back to us. We fuck up and we give it back to you. That's all it is. It's just back and forth. This is why it's so desperate for an alternative to the two-party system. Is so needed.
Yeah, and I think hopefully people will start to wake up, and they're worried about splitting the vote. And as you said earlier, you can't really tell the difference between the two anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the whole argument of I'm too worried about risking my vote and splitting the vote. If that's your logic and mentality, then no new party will ever grow. Because I've heard it before where people, when I was with UKIP, David, they said, "Oh, we love UKIP, we love Farage, we love this, that, and the other." But I don't want to risk my vote just this time, so I'm going to vote Conservative just to not get Labour in. And I've heard it time and time and time again.
Same here, and the same when I was in UKIP, we were canvassing. I heard exactly the same things. When we're out talking to local residents, and I heard the same thing as what you were saying there. People were voting Labour because their parents voted Labour, their grandparents voted Labour, and then that was the only reason. There was no other reason. That just shows how dumb people are in this country. And that's the mess. That's why we're in this mess. It's nothing to do with the politicians. Everybody knows the politicians are wankers. Everyone knows they're untrustworthy. Everyone knows you can't trust them. They're about as trustworthy as Rolf Harris at a kids' party. And people are still voting for them.
I know. That's why I say pathetic, innit? But hopefully people slowly, surely got to wake up and just get out of that bubble, get out of that, do your own research the candidate, research the
well, this is it, and will they actually do it? I just can't see it, Nick. I just cannot see it, mate.
No, do you know what? If even down to some family members I know would only vote a certain party because of my nan did, and it's just pathetic. It's just get out of that bubble and don't have the mentality of I don't want to vote for a small new party because it's a wasted vote or this that, and the other. If that's your mentality and logic, then no small new party will ever grow, and it'll only be Conservative and Labour, and we'll still be here moaning and complaining in years to come.
Yeah, and now, what's your views on this World Economic Forum stuff, Nick? So we've seen, that Klaus Schwab, looks like a James Bond villain, who's saying, his organisation has penetrated governments across the world, and we know pretty much half the government, if not more, and even the King himself, King Charles, has even, been involved with the World Economic Forum. What's your views on that? Because I'm quite concerned about that with that Klaus Schwab and what he's pushing, his ideology. We've got this, Agenda 2030 business, and you'll own nothing, you'll be happier. He's telling us that while he's sitting with a bust of Karl Marx behind him. But what's your viewpoint on all that?
I think we've spoken briefly about him before. He's not been candid or hidden about it. He's openly expressed that he wants to penetrate young cabinets around the world. That was a few years ago, and he's successfully done so with other cabinets around the world. You can talk about Justin Trudeau in Canada. You can talk about other governments around the world which he's penetrated ourselves. He's a dangerous man. He's a dangerous man who World Economic Forum are meant to be a non-government organisation, just to give their thoughts and views on that, and they've been anything but. So yeah, he's a dangerous man. Tell us to eat bugs. We're own nothing. He's openly said and admit, your own nothing can be happy about it. So what more do people need to see and hear to know what the World Economic Forum is all about, and to know what our governments are leaning towards and following? What more needs to be done and said, mate?
It's a dangerous path. And this is another thing. People are asleep. You talk to people about the World Economic Forum, they don't know about the World Economic Forum, they don't know who Klaus Schwab is, and they don't know that, the members of parliament are, involved in this. And when you look at the likes of Oxford and Canterbury, which have left-wing councils, and they're now pushing to divide the cities up, so you can't drive out of your zone more than 30 times a year. Real Talatolia, bloody proper, communist style regime, control.
Little mini cities.
And but that's what that's just the prototypes. They're just testing the water, see what they can get away with. In the Netherlands, they're seizing farmland. What they're doing is they're doing a little bit in each country. They're just testing the water to see what they can get away with.
Well, just briefly, you spoke about the control of the farmlands, and what's that famous saying? He who controls the food supply controls the people. And that's what it is. That's what you get down to. Fuck the TVs and the nice cars and this, that, and the other. If it gets down to the food supply, the person who owns the food supply owns the people. And this whole getting rid of farms, we should be expanding farms and helping out farmers and local produce and this, that, and the other. But obviously, the World Economic Forum's agenda is, as we know, to get rid of the farms, the food supply, so they control and they do whatever they want with it and this, that, and the other. So it's crazy times, but I'm so glad we do have people knowing what's going on. There's too many that's blind. There's too many that don't know what's going on. But I'm so glad that we have got a small minority so far, and we can share this and expand it to get other people awake to this and try and fight this before it gets. Well, can it get any worse? I don't know.
We'll see, mate. Won't we? All right. Well, Nick, I want to call it there, mate. We're going to crack on, but thanks very much for your time. Thanks for having a chat with us on that.
Nice, mate. Next time we'll definitely put a message out.
A bit more knowledge, yeah.
Before and
just the last minute thing. I just finished work early, so I won't have a little rant about it.
Rant.
All right, cheers, guys. Take care. Right.
Nice one, David. Take care, everyone. Cheers, everyone. Bye.